Are you ready for me to continue?
Go ahead and start again, please.
Okay. As I said, I'm here. Lynn Davison,
Present.
Angela Denning,
Present.
William Gibney,
Present.
Michael Gordon,
Present.
Dean Howard,
Present.
Suke Knaifal,
Present.
Mark Sims.
Present. So
Okay.
let the record show that we have a quorum. So the next item on the agenda is introduction.
Mark, I just want to say I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
And the only other person that I had trouble hearing was Lynn was a little bit low, but I'm not hearing you. I mean, I hear you, but
How's that? Is that better?
that's much better.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Sorry. So the next agenda item is for people to do a brief introduction of themselves. So Elaine, we'll start with you and go through the way you went through the roll call as well.
Okay. And just remind me, are we just doing kind of basics of who we are and where we are at the moment?
Yeah, that's fine. However you wish to introduce yourself is fine.
Okay. Well, my name's Elaine Baldridge. I live in Phoenix. I have worked in the area of blindness for 40 years or so, and I am very passionate about good services to families and children of those who have hearing and vision losses. And I'm married for the last 40 bunches of years, and to a great guy, and have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. And I'm excited about the new year for things that we'll be doing on the board. Lynn Davison.
Hello, everyone. I am a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. I am presently working with Glendale Union High School District. I have been teaching for over 40 years in a number of different districts, from Mesa to Casa Grande to USD for a while.
I'm not hearing Lynn very well. Maybe everybody else is, but...
Okay, is that better?
That's better, yeah.
You have to be really
It is.
close. All right. Do you want me to repeat that, Elaine, or are you
Sure,
good?
go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So I've been teaching deaf and hard of hearing for over 40 years in many different districts, have had many different experiences from birth through 22 years old. Personally, I live in Phoenix. I am married, have 3 sons and 4 grandchildren.
Thank you.
Angela Denning.
Good afternoon. I'm Angela Denning. I have been in education for 25 or so years. I started my education career in the Kyrene School District as a special educator. I was in the Kyrene School District as a special educator for 15 years.
Angela?
I then had, yeah?
We're having problems with echo, so I know you're on your way. So when you come here in person, we're going to have you do your introduction. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
I'll stop there.
Okay, Bill Gibney.
I am an estate planning attorney. I'm blind. I'm
Bill
totally
Gibney.
blind. I've been blind
Bill
since I was 8
Gibney.
years old. And my wife and I will be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this April. And our only child is his name is Alibi, and he's a 4-legged yellow Labrador, my guide dog.
All right. Michael Gordon.
My name is Michael Gordon. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Arizona Association for the Visually Impaired and have been for the last 10 years. It's a rehabilitation agency serving, well, now we serve children through the Elderly Rehabilitation Agency for the visually impaired and blind. We have offices in Phoenix, Yuma, and Tucson and provide state services. I've lived in Arizona since 2001 with my wife and children. I sit on the Governor's Council for the Blind and Visually Impaired and the United Cerebral Palsy for Southern Arizona Agency. Thank you.
Dean Howard.
Hi, this is Dean Howard. I'm a Phoenix Phoenician native, born and raised in Sunny Slope. I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a boy. My middle daughter Emma is 14 and she is hard of hearing. I'm interested in obviously the future of ASDB and what we can do to help those who are deaf, blind, and hard of hearing.
Sue Kay.
Hi, I'm Sue Knikel. I'm the statewide coordinator for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services with Rehabilitation Services Administration, also sometimes known as VR. I have worked in the field of either community rehabilitation or rehabilitation services for more years than I care to admit or count. But my focus has primarily been on deaf and hard of hearing. My degree is in rehab counseling for the deaf and hard of hearing. I primarily have worked with adults, but started working with transition age students at least 10 plus years ago. And excited about the opportunity, excited about possible collaborations with ASDB and the folks on the board, and look forward to serving this year.
Mark, you're on.
Hi, my name is Mark Sims. I'm married with 3 wonderful children. They're 12, 10, and 7. I am a otologist, neuro-otologist. I deal with diseases of the ear. Another way to look at me is I'm the E of ENT. I'm also a neurology, or the director of neurotology for the Barrow Neurologic Institute up in Phoenix. I lead the CRS cochlear implant program, and additionally I serve on the Arizona licensure board for audiologists, hearing aid dispensers, and speech pathologists. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is an information and discussion item, a student presentation. I appreciate them coming. I think we went over last time and were unable to have them present, so I appreciate them coming back.
Well, actually, this I think is a different group.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, I'm sure we'll get to the other group sooner or later.
That's correct.
Hello, my name is Paya Benson. I'm the Regional Director for Southeast Regional Cooperative. And about 2 weeks ago, on the 29th of January, we had an opportunity to have about 50 of the kids in the neighboring school districts in the Pima County, Cochise County area go to the Desert Museum. And we have 2 young students here today that would love to share their experience with you. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them, see if I can bring the mic down so that they can actually have a chance to be heard. So we're going to start with Layla Nunez. Come on up here, Layla. And then we've got Francisco Salazar. Come on up here and let me see. Let's do a test run. See how close to the microphone. First of all, stand right there and say hi.
Hi.
Are we good? Okay, Francisco, can you stand right there and say hi?
Hi.
Okay, so these 2 have a wonderful experience to share. I'm going to step back, and do you know who's going first? Okay, Layla.
Hi, my name is Layla Nunez, and I am a 4th grader at Drexel Elementary in the Sunnyside Unified School District. This year, I went on a field trip to the Desert Museum. My favorite reptile was the snake that I got to touch, even though I was a little scared. I was so happy to meet new people and students. I think it is such a good idea to get together with others and share in a fun experience like field trips. I hope another one comes next year. Thank you and have a great day.
Hi, I'm Francisco Salazar. I'm a 4th grader from Liberty Elementary. My favorite part My favorite part of the desert museum was the cave because it had cool rocks and minerals. And in the room, there was a cam that zoomed in on things like a centipede and scorpions in some type of glass-like capturing. I was very glad I went because I had made some friends like Anaid and Javier. I would want to go on a field trip. I would want to go on a field trip. I will go on a field trip that is similar to this one. Thank you.
I just want to real quickly thank the board because we were able to do this from trust fund requests. So I really do thank the board for their support, and thank you, Kim. You guys did a great job.
The next is the call to the public for agendized. Is there a place for non-agendized items as well?
Yes, it's towards the end of the agenda.
Okay, so for agendized items, we have two requests by the same person. It's Lisa Fear. We'll give 5 minutes for her topic, and general functions, the superintendent search, and board policies. I'll stand up at 4.5 minutes, and then we'll stop at 5. It's superintendent search and board policies.
Thank you, President of the Board and board members. I'm Lisa Furr. I'm the President of the Arizona Association of the Deaf. Just a second, they can't see Lisa's signs, so we're getting an interpreter to come up and shadow. Thank you. Should I start over again?
Yes, please.
Thank you, President and board members. I'm Lisa Furr, the President of the Arizona Association of the Deaf, or ASDB. We serve deaf and hard of hearing citizens throughout the state of Arizona, and we're affiliated with the National Association of the Deaf. I would like to bring to your attention, in terms of board policy 7.02, GBEC. I tried to look online at the ASDB website, and the board policies don't seem to have such a name listed in the policies. I'm wondering if it was a misspelling, and so I wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
So it's B as in boy, wait, I apologize, CGBEC. I wasn't able to find that on the board policies online. And I'm wondering what the recommendations are for a change as far as access to information and how we as a community can make public comments based on the recommendations for change if we don't have access to the information. Should I move on to the next topic?
Yes, please.
Can you remind me again what the next topic was?
Superintendent search.
Thank you. AZID and the members encourage the board to support Dr. Lamer on the superintendent search. The deaf community is very excited that the search is beginning because Mr. Lamer has been here for a year, and so we're excited that the search is commencing. We can't emphasize enough how important it is to include stakeholders in the search. It was done in past residential schools superintendent search, for example, the California School for the Deaf at Riverside and Fremont Also the New Mexico School for the Deaf, and Rochester School for the Deaf in New York. All of the superintendent searches were very successful because they included stakeholders, and I'd like to look to those schools as a model for our future search. Thank you. And I believe I have one more thing in terms of the timeline. I'm concerned with the interviews starting in the summer, and I would ask the board to consider moving them to August or September when all the faculty, staff, and students will be back at school. I think it's important to include them in the interview and the evaluation process. And you can see how the candidates that you are interviewing, how they relate to the student groups, having them here. So it's important, I believe, for you to observe their actions and their relationships with the stakeholders instead of interviewing them at a time where the staff, faculty, and students are not here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next agenda item is the executive team reports. So we'll start with instructional by Mr. Kohler.
Thank you, Dr. Sims. A copy of the report was in your board packets. Are there any questions on the report? And I'll highlight a couple pieces of that once we answer questions.
No, I don't have any questions.
No questions?
Anybody else have any questions regarding instruction?
No.
Two points to highlight. The last meeting and the past couple meetings, there's been an interest on the part of the board that we have some attention paid to teacher salaries. And so at the beginning of this school year, we did a fairly in-depth review of all teacher salaries. We looked at what vacancies we had, what positions that needed to be filled, those positions that were not going to be filled. Through the course of the first semester, we were identifying a certain amount of money that we were able to repurpose toward teacher pay adjustments. We're using the term pay adjustment as opposed to raise, and the reason that term is being used is a pay adjustment means we're catching people up to where the community is. While we may not be exactly the same as every school district in Arizona, we have brought the teacher pay up to at least something that we believe is on par. We originally thought there were going to be 70 teachers who would be affected by this given the initial information we had. As it turns out, there were over 120 out of almost 200 teachers that were due an adjustment in pay. That pay was made effective actually this week, February 6th, on the pay check that the staff received. It was made effective this month. Initially, we had expected that we would be able to take that back to July, which would have made it a retroactive pay adjustment. However, when we found that the amount of funds that were available would allow us to take it from February 6th forward. So all the people that had up to 20 years of teaching experience were given credit for those 20 years. There are a handful of people who have more than 20 years. Their salary actually was beyond the extended pay schedule that was adopted in July of 2014. We will go back in with those individuals, identify them, and there will be a one-time longevity bonus that will be available for those individuals. The responses that we got were positive. I think people were pleased that it was more than something. We really wanted to honor the time that people had spent, not only here at ASDB, but for the years that they had outside of ASDB. A corollary to this will be in terms of recruiting. Up until now, we'd only been able to give people 8 years experience if they were new to ASDB. And we've had several people that have applied that had 10, 12, 14 years of experience. We weren't able to honor that. At this point, we will be able to do that. We're not anticipating being flooded with a lot of teachers that have that experience, but for those few teachers that do have that experience that will be valuable for what we're trying to do here for students, we are going to be able to pay them accordingly. Any questions on the pay and how that came about? Good?
No, I think it's great. Obviously, this was a topic that there was a lot of discussion on a repetitive basis at many board meetings over the recent past, and it was an important topic for the community, and I think it's great work that you guys went through all this. Thank you.
One question, Mr. President. Bill, as the pay increases have gone into effect and you're recognizing years of service and different tenure, does that affect the retirement system at all? Is any of that recognition of outside work, is that applicable towards the point system at all?
Boy, I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
I wouldn't have any idea. All we're doing is giving credit for the years they have.
Okay.
But it's a good question. We can look into it
Okay.
and see if we can get you some information.
Thanks.
Good. The second piece, and it's a bigger piece that talks about just the overall improvement of student performance. I know that's been a question that the board has had over time, and particularly the current sitting board. This year, we became partners with the Beyond Textbook framework that comes out of the Vail Unified School District. We're not part of Vail Unified School District. We're a member of a consortium, for lack of a better term, of over 100 districts in the state of Arizona that have adopted this framework. The framework itself talks about what's the best teaching practices that we can put into place in classrooms, what kind of training will teachers need to effect those teaching practices, how do we monitor student progress, 4 questions that we learned as we went through the process is what is it specifically the students need to learn? Second question is how are we know they're going to learn it? Third question is what are we going to do if they didn't learn it? And the fourth question, what are we going to do if they did learn it? And those are some key questions as we look at improving instruction across the agency. Since that time, or since the beginning of the year, we've had multiple trainings, not only for our teachers on campuses, but also in our regional programs that have allowed the teachers to be upgraded or updated in their training on the essential elements of instruction, which is research-based practices in education. They're proven skills that work. We will go through some additional training with the Beyond Textbook framework that will put us in contact with a curriculum-based, it's called a wiki, it's a database that has the essential standards that Arizona is looking for all children to learn. We will be connected with that and be able to share resources across 100 districts and thousands of teachers in the state of Arizona. What that's going to do is give us some in-time information about expectations on any grade level in any course for all the courses that are part of this. But the exciting part for us, we will get to add to that some of the special skills and training that we have here at ASDB. Those haven't been developed yet, but we expect that those will be developed. We're very excited. The staff that have gone through the trainings have been very excited about the training itself. It's already being implemented in classrooms. Talking to the principal in Phoenix, they've had multiple staff meetings where now there's training in lessons. Teachers are actually given demonstration lessons during staff meetings on how to make this work for students. If there was a question before, was student performance an important part of what's going on, I would assure the board that it shouldn't be a question anymore. Student performance is a very high priority. And I'll welcome questions about that now, or if you have other questions later, please let me know.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next report is Information Technology by Paul Creasy.
Board President, members of the board, Dr. Lamer, Mr. Kohler. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss some of the things just give a status update of some of the things we've been working on since the last board meeting. From a technology perspective, we just finished doing a refresh of the phone system up in Holbrook and Flagstaff. And that went very well, and something that's been needed, and it's going to be the baseline for us to increase our bandwidth, and that's been a huge challenge as we're relying on technology. We've been very limited in those locations to get a decent bandwidth, so this is that first step to being able to completely refresh the equipment there to be able to support the higher speeds. You've been provided in your board packets information on current status of what we've been working on. At this time, is there any questions that I can answer?
Any questions? No, thank you very much for your efforts. We appreciate you moving the projects along.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Pritchard on operations.
Hi, my name is Terry Pritchard. You've got my report.
Terry, close to the mic, please, okay? Thanks.
You have my report. Are there any questions that I can answer for you?
No? Thank you very much. Are there any highlights you want to?
Yeah, I would like to. First of all, the Transportation Department had their annual DPS survey for the buses. All of the buses passed with flying colors, which is great news. We are going to be starting the high school AC project on our next break, which will be in April, and then move to the food service building towards the end of the year. And
Mr. President, this is Elaine. I just have one question. It says buses have been ordered and we were able to purchase them. Do you actually have them? I mean, are they up and running, and have you been able to get enough drivers to drive them? I know that was an issue last year.
So I think she's asking, are they all up and running, and do you have drivers to drive them?
yes, to both.
So the problems of too long a trips have been taken care of in the Phoenix area?
Yes, in the Phoenix area, we are up and running. We should be adding another route within the next couple of weeks. We do have enough drivers now. We still continue to look for them, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next report is from Human Resources, Anita Payette. Did I pronounce that correctly?
And board members, as I'll explain to you in my report in a moment, I've moved some people around in the executive team due to a resignation of one of our staff, and Paul is now serving as the executive director over IT as well as over HR, which is why he's back up here twice tonight.
Board President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Lamer, Mr. Kohler. At this time, I'd like to make myself available. You have been provided information in your board packets on what HR is going on. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity, too, to let you know that one of the things that we're currently working on, I'd like to highlight, would be in the past, it has been difficult and there's been challenges for HR to identify critical positions and trying to find the right places to be able to hire for those specialized positions. At this time, the HR department has started revamping their processes to try to identify and profile these positions by meeting with the directors, meeting with the principals to identify the critical positions that we're having difficulty trying to hire, and trying to find out what are some of those traits that we're looking for, what type of people we're looking for, where can we go to get that, and really trying to reach out and think outside the box, looking at all in every venue that we can, especially positions in our regional programs. It can be challenging to find a specific need, to fill a specific need when some of these cities are very remote. And so it limits, there's a lot of limitation there. So we're thinking about trying to see if we can reach out to the surrounding cities and all sorts of social media and other state programs such as different types of groups and putting out postings there for those positions. But we're trying to do a huge approach by trying to saturate everywhere we can possibly get to at least get the word out there and to try to identify and recruit those positions. At this time, I'd like to make myself available if there's any questions that I can answer.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next is a presentation on policies by Maria Murphy.
evening, Board President, Board members, Dr. Lamer, Mr. Kaler.
Close to the microphone. That's
Okay.
my job tonight, by the way.
Well, we appreciate that.
Okay. You have my report, so at this time, I'd just like to open it up. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have for me.
Are there any key points you'd like to touch on?
Well, at this time, I would like to just reiterate that I am proposing to complete a comprehensive policy survey for your review. I would like to have this comprehensive policy review done within the next 18 months, depending on how many policies we can get approved at each board meeting, maybe 18 to 24. But I fully expect that this review is going to be an ongoing process in the future because these policies are in constant need of revision. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In relationship to earlier, one of our, Lisa's question in the call to the
policy.
public, you certainly could provide direction here to Maria to get with Lisa to
that would
resolve that
agreed.
issue.
I'm not sure exactly what Ms. Fuhr's question was about a particular policy, board policy. If you
Yes.
would follow up and resolve that question, I'd appreciate it.
I would be more than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next report is by Dr. Limmer.
Bear with me for a moment where I open up and remember what I've said. Board members, just you have my report. It's really just a summary of the activities I've been about and the meetings that I've been attending. And two key pieces that I have met with the advisory group in Phoenix about, which are the job descriptions for the director of the blind program and director of the deaf program. We met last week. We had some very minor changes and expect to bring those forward to you in March for your consideration and approval. So that's perhaps the biggest item that we have in here. The second item is the one I mentioned earlier. We had a resignation from our team, agency team in early January. Lauren Pierce retired, and she had been working on our policies, and it became exceedingly important that I have that work continue. And so I detailed Maria to that position, as you see tonight, for policy, and then added to it government relations, which is something you'll begin to start seeing about the various bills that are in the legislature that will have an impact or could have an impact on ASDB or education in general. She'll be producing those reports weekly for your benefit. And I, at that time, also had Paul Creasy, as I indicated to you, take responsibility for both human resources and IT. At this time, that's how we're staffed. And we are, like all agencies, in review based on the request of the governor relative to the hiring freeze, reviewing all positions before we move forward any farther. And that includes that any replacement that would be in human resources. So Paul is extremely busy right now, I guess is what I would say, and I want to thank him for his service. If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer those for you.
Are there any questions from any of the board members? Angela?
Dr. Lamer, so you mentioned that there would be reports, weekly reports from the legislature. Is that going to come to board members also, or just to you?
That will come to the board members as well as
Awesome.
the executive
Thank
team.
you.
Could we have each person speaking identify themselves? So those of us on the phone will know who's speaking. Thanks.
I'm so sorry, Elaine, that
That's
Angela
okay.
Denning.
Thank you. I thought it was, but wasn't sure.
Okay, we're going to go back to the introductions now that Angela's here. She can introduce herself in a non-echoed format. So
Thank you, Board President. I apologize for not being here in person on time. I was on the phone, and I apologize for the echo. I was on my cell phone, which is not a good thing to do. I'm Angela Denning. As I said before, I started in education 25-ish years ago. I started, I think, when I was 12 years old, right, Lynn? 12?
I think so, I'm sure.
12. I started in the Kyrene School District as a special education teacher. I remained a cross-categorical resource teacher for about 12 years, and then for 3 years I was a half-time literacy coach and half-time behavior intervention teacher. I then got the great opportunity to go to the state, and I've been with the State Department of Education in Phoenix for the last 10 years. I started in the Reading First initiative. I moved into the school improvement and intervention section, and 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I became the State Director of Special Education for our wonderful state of Arizona. I, like Bill, do not have any children, but I have four-legged children who keep me busy. So thank you. I'm excited to be on this board. Students with special needs and disabilities and or underdogs are the folks that are the kiddos that I care for the most. So I'm excited to be here and more than welcome to have conversations with folks as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. We're going to move on to item 1.06, information for discussion, Richard Valdivia's trust fund presentation.
President Sims, members of the board, Superintendent Lamer, you have my report. It's a discussion. It was my understanding the board wanted some guidance as to how we currently handle trust funds. And so it's as it explains here, there's that's governed in statute. And basically the funds, when they're given to us, as this explains, have to be distributed in the fashion designated. If not, then the board has some discretion as to how those funds are distributed. And then as an attachment to my handout, I've included balances currently in trust funds held by the department. The first balance, the largest part of the trust fund money, as you can see, in excess of $3.2 million, is held by Pathways, our investment partner, and then you can see the rest of the funds. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if I can.
So the board is to approve, this is Mark Sims.
Yeah.
The board is to approve the expenditures through any of these trusts, is that correct?
Well, the board sets the policies that govern the use of the trust funds.
Okay.
There's a financial committee that meets regularly or will meet regularly, and some discussion as to how you want to administer them needs to take place as the board, and so that needs to occur so that we're sure to continue to do that. What you see here is practice based on past policy. The board can direct that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, what we're trying to avoid in the future, if we can get it to work, is that the board would annually approve categories of acceptable expenditure, and then if a particular event within that did not happen, we wouldn't have to come back to you with a replacement event, which takes time for staff and to do. So that's the goal that Richard has as we move through these funds.
That'd be great. Appreciate it very much.
Mr. President, Dr. Lamer, I can answer Mr. Gordon's question regarding the salary increases. I think I will attempt to answer just to say, if it's appropriate.
Yes, we'd appreciate an answer. That'd be great. You're
Okay.
talking about the retirement system
The
question,
retirement,
right?
yes. Since this is an increase in pay, the retirement deductions will be taken from it, so it can potentially increase retirement for a person, depending if they stay. We're on the defined benefit plan that the state has, and so that will increase the person's payout, but they will also increase their contributions and our contributions to the retirement plan.
Okay, that's a part of the question. The second part is the recognition of the additional time that people are working possibly outside of the ASDB system. It's been recognized in the pay increase or the leveling of the pay. Is any of that time being included in towards their retirement, towards their experience, their point system?
Here's what I'll say, and again, these are very detailed questions, but I can answer that and also say that if you were a teacher in a school district and you chose to continue and not draw out your pay, when you switch jobs to the state agency, then it would continue on. But what we did will not increase their years if they didn't take them then, unless they choose to pay in and pay for that. So it's an actuarial computation that would need to take place if somebody chose to buy back time or something like that.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Mr. Gordon for a clarification on his question? Because if I understand, Mr. Gordon, what you were wondering is perhaps if someone brought 10 years of experience in New Mexico into coming to work here, would those 10 years count in the Arizona retirement system? I don't know the specific answer to that. Sometimes the retirement system has agreements with other states where they can transfer their years of service in, but that's rare. So I think the best answer would be that those years of service, well, we would recognize them for their placement on the salary schedule. The Arizona State retirement system would not recognize those years.
All right, that was the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move to the next. The next agenda item is 1.07, discussion and possible action item, the superintendent search. So is there a presentation, or because the board can look at under the tab and there's a calendar of events?
Yes, and board members, if I could, just
Sure.
I give this to you tonight so that we can begin that, or you can begin the process of discussion about what the timelines would look like, what the process might look like. I think as I pointed at the top there, just to be brief, I found that this process is currently the process very close to this being used by the state of New Mexico and the replacement of their superintendent, although it's very collapsed in terms of its time. So what I tried to put were some critical moments in this process for you to begin to talk about and discuss. None of them are, nobody's anchored in any of these dates. And certainly with the way my contract reads, really you have until the 12th of May in 2016 to have a new superintendent in place. So what I attempted to do was to respond to, I think specifically a request from Angela, that we get something on the table and begin to discuss it and begin to talk about it. A couple of points I'd bring in it is that the discussion or the term facilitator is just that. This is a bit of a change. President Sims, from when we discussed this in April a year ago, where we were looking to actually go hire an outside firm. Right. This would really be looking for an individual to facilitate the process you define and the community defines together with you for the completion of the successful search. So this is a singular individual. It certainly could be a person from the Arizona School Board Association, or it could be another individual, many throughout the state, who conduct these facilitations for school districts and others right now. So I just wanted to point out to you what that meant. And then a critical moment, I think, in the September timeline, just for your reference, is that what you always keep open is your choices that you have as a board to act in the best interest of ASDB, which means if you wanted to move to an appointment of an individual somewhere in this process, you could do that. If you wanted to say, we don't like any of the applicants we've reviewed, you could do that. And that's why the September date, at least when that event happens, whatever the date, it's a critical time where the board would come back together and say, we're ready now to move on to whatever that next step might be in the process, and not ever giving up any of those potentials that you have to just immediately act in the best interest of the organization. So it's here for your discussion tonight, and take notes on it and what you might want to do.
As a point of comment, Ms. Fear's comment was about the ability of the community to be able to interview, and the timeline does not preclude that. It's just not specified exactly when that time would be. So it seems to me, from my read, the summer work would be the screening of the applicants, whittling it down to a workable group of people. We're probably not going to be able to have 24 people come and meet the community. We're going to want to narrow it down based on their credentials and initial screening, and then have 5 or something of that nature come. And that would be done once the schools are back in session and the community is present, not during the summer months when people are oftentimes on vacation. But also keep in mind, school starts in early August, so it's not as if school won't be in session at that time, because we're back to learning very, very early in the summer, or very quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Sims, Dr. Sims, this is Elaine. At one point, we had talked about a board committee that would be involved in this. Is that still considered? Is it important? Is it?
Elaine, at the time, that committee was actually a committee to find somebody to help us find a superintendent. And we talked to the Arizona School Board Association about it. They do have a process, and that would be something as a board we could choose to use, or as Superintendent Lemmer was just talking about, we could also pick a single facilitator or somebody to help us as a board go through this selection process. And that's something that's open to discussion between the two. I think it would be helpful that maybe somebody on the board kind of took a lead in terms of, or we could have a subcommittee of a couple of board members that got together. Maybe 3 people would volunteer to get together and kind of decide what they think is the best way through collaboration with the community and talking to other people. I have no experience in selecting a superintendent previously. But there are people that have a lot of knowledge of this process and sensitivity of the calendar to the hiring cycle as well. I mean, you certainly don't want to select somebody and then find out that they took another job because we're off of the hiring cycle. So I'm open to, we could go ahead and consider that as something as a board action that we could do. Go ahead.
Thanks. That was kind of what I was asking, if we were going to do it as a whole group, or if we were going to, in this earlier process, suggest 2 or 3 people from the board. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Marv Lamer, I think the critical element, at least if there is one to me, would be indicating whether you, as a board, want to select a facilitator in March. That's a singularly important event, as well as determining the types of individuals who would serve on the screening committee. Those two are, after that, time could stretch out, but...
No, I agree. So it would be nice to get 3 board members who could get together and meet and discuss this as a, rather than, you can have a committee meeting rather than having to have a formal board meeting to discuss this. Does that seem reasonable enough to talk with, unless I'm missing something?
Well, I'm not sure, I'm quite sure I'm not clear. So would this be for the purpose of recommending?
We can either do this at the board meeting, or we can have some people do some groundwork beforehand to kind of get an idea of the lay of the land. And it would be very nice on March 26th if we had some individuals that we could select from. Currently, that's probably a list of 20 or 30 individuals. It'd be nice to kind of have somebody whittle it down.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Right.
I understand. Thank you.
Go ahead, Angela.
President Angela Denning. So this would be a committee to look at what the criteria would be for selecting a facilitator.
No, I would. It would be, I think, helpful to actually go through and do some due diligence and come up with a short list of facilitators.
Okay.
I mean, we can't keep on having a process about the process about the process. We want to get a superintendent here. So ultimately, on the 26th, I mean, barring people, I think we're open to any board member suggesting anyone on the 26th, but it would be nice if a small group of people would get together and kind of, who know the lay of the land, or if the executive team would suggest some people they should talk to or a short list of something of that nature, so we could have some idea where it's a more poignant discussion at the March board meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that.
Good.
So, and clearly, Elaine and Angela are the first two.
I'd be willing. Elaine, if you're willing, I'm willing. This is Angela Denning.
Sure, I'd be glad to work with people that know ideas on
There's
that.
no limit to the number of people. It would have to be agendized, the meeting, right?
Yes.
So if there's anybody else who would, it would be nice to have at least one more board member.
This is Dean Howard. I'd be willing to help.
Okay, great. So, and that does not preclude other people's participation. That's just the three people who will go ahead, and they will go ahead and announce it, and it'll be agendized so other members of the board can participate.
President Sims,
I'm sorry. This is Sue K. Knifel. I would be interested if you need someone as well. I couldn't get my mute off fast enough.
Okay, great. Yes, okay. So the administration, we're not taking open comments right now, thank you. The administration...
I'm just concerned about the open meeting law.
We're not taking comments right now, thank you. The executive team will go ahead and try to get some workable dates, and as I said before, it will be agendized and it'll be an open meeting, so it'll be announced and people will be able to learn of that meeting just like any other meeting of the board that it involves more than 3 or more individuals as in compliant with the Sunshine or the open meetings laws. Great. I think it's important for this to move along and start the process. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this agenda item?
No.
Okay. So we're going to move to the consent agenda. There are multiple consent agendas. Is there anything anybody wants to discuss, or can we go ahead and have a motion to... We'll entertain a motion.
This is Angela Denning, President. I move to approve the consent agenda items.
Do we have a second?
Lynn Davison, I second this motion.
We'll just do a verbal roll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It passed unanimously. Okay. Going down to item number 3, gifts and donations. So we would like to acknowledge the donations that have been given. There was a donation to ASDB for the Landsberg Foundation for $6,000 for the use in early childhood and family services. Again, to ASDB from the Lewis and Ruth Hare Trust for the amount of $5,000 to be used in music department. Donation to ASDB from the Susan Koch in the amount of $500 to be used for the Holiday Help Program. A donation to PDSD from the Upton Family Living Trust for the amount of $1,291 to be deposited into the Miscellaneous Endowment Local Fund account. We appreciate everybody's generosity to the agency to help us educate the children of Arizona. Moving to item number 4, facility agreement. There's a consent agenda item. Is there any issues or questions? We'll entertain a motion to consent to...
I think you've already approved all of these.
Oh, okay, they're all approved.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think your next item is
All right.
6.01.
Next action item is 6.01, authorization to issue an employment contract to Ms. Barbara Schrag for the position of Director of Education Services, Early Childhood Development, and Family Education. This item is open for discussion. Are there any comments or presentation from the executive team? Mr. Kaler?
You have
I'll make a motion that we authorize that the contract for Barbara Schrag in that position.
Mr. Bill, give me a second that.
I'd like to motion to amend that agenda item to make it a temporary contract and the position be re-advertised given the direction of the board gave from the recent retreat.
This is Lynn Davison. I second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you actually have an active motion. You want to amend the motion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm messing up the Robert's Rules of.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, this is Bill Gibney. I didn't understand
So
your
the
comment.
first item that was proposed was to approve the motion, and then that was seconded by Angela. And then I made a motion to amend it to make it a temporary employment agreement and reopen the position, approve her for a temporary contract and reopen the position for applicants given the direction from the recent retreat of the board. Lynn Davison seconded that motion.
Remind me at least of what that means. I don't understand why we would do it as a temporary for. Is it just because we have not advertised it?
Well, we did advertise this position, if my recollection is correct. The issue, from my perspective, is given the direction of the recent retreat, perhaps we might be looking for somebody who has skills that are more compatible with what we're looking for. That's not to say Ms. Schrag can't reapply. It's just kind of looking for somebody that maybe has a broader direction, since she was hired before we had she was selected and applied and selected before we actually had the retreat. So it seems, based on the discussion recently on the retreat, we might be looking for a different type of individual.
This is Angela Denning, Board President. That's in reference to our discussion about early intervention being one of the areas that we need to begin to put more effort behind, because we know that that's important, and we saw that was light.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I second the amended motion. Or did you?
No, it's actually
she did second.
Is there any other comment regarding the motion?
No.
That just seems kind of backwards to me. Just because she applied before the retreat, would we put a timeline on it?
Well, typically they would reopen it. In other words, she can be in that position and on an interim basis, and then we would reopen it for other applicants.
Do we have a concern of some kind other than what you just said? I mean, her background is in early childhood, was my understanding.
I don't disagree.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was something I missed.
What I would posit to you is if the direction of this particular program is going to change, perhaps there are people who would be open to applying for this position that previously didn't think that it was compatible with what their goals or what they thought the direction of the agency was.
Well, should we be filling it now then?
I'm sorry again. I'm sorry.
Maybe we shouldn't be filling the position if we're going to change the job description soon.
I didn't think it was a matter of completely changing the job description, but more beefing up that area. And again, my understanding of Barbara Schrag is that she has extensive background in the areas of early childhood and families and things like that. But if I'm wrong, then that's fine. So it seems like we should go ahead and approve the position for a reasonable period of time at least, and then I guess yeah, well, okay.
Well, my rationale is this, Elaine. There are people who perhaps didn't think to apply because they didn't think
I understand what you're saying on that. I do.
That the sentiment was going to, that this part of the agency was going to be a high priority. So people might perhaps not wish to apply because they don't think that it's a priority for the agency. Now that we perhaps would make it a higher priority, you might get a different applicant pool. It doesn't mean that Barbara won't end up being that person, but it seems to me we might be able to, if we message to the community that this is a higher priority, you might get other applicants for the position.
This doesn't seem fair to Barbara, to me. Would she accept something on a temporary basis, or would we designate it to be for 12 months or 24 months or something? Or
Yeah, it seems like it should be at least a 12-month contract, I don't know, or the rest of this year and to the end of next year if we're going, I mean, it's going to take us, if we're really talking about revamping a whole program, it would take at least that long, if not longer.
Let me ask a question. How long was, so this position became vacant, we advertised it and filled it. How long did that process take?
This is Bill Kaler. I don't have an exact date for the
But
timing of it.
approximately.
3 or 4 months, maybe?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not viewing this, I mean, everybody can have their own take on it, but I'm not viewing this as a, 18-month national search. My only point is you can, there's no reason, at this point, it's February, right? So the question is do you just put her in at that position and you've hired her and you renew her? Or do you put her in an interim position and then re-advertise it and see if you get other applicants given the change in sentiment? That's basically my thinking process. But I'm not thinking, at least for me, that this would be something that we would do in 2016. It would be something that you could pick, and everybody else is, when do we typically approve? It's in April, right? So.
What's her current status?
She's running the position, I believe.
Correct. She's in an acting detail
So-
at this point. This is Bill.
So she's acting in this role.
Correct.
Why don't we just let her continue to act in this role rather than, I don't know, it seems convoluted to me.
We're open to, I'm not sure when you say that it's convoluted, is it the terming of the motion or just the...
I don't think that she has currently, again, somebody in HR may have to correct this, but I thought that the idea of bringing up the position was that she would become the Director of Educational Services, Early Childhood, and Family Education, and currently that isn't all under one roof, and that people would report to her who don't currently do that. So somebody in HR might correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I think we want to be cautious. We have scheduled the ability to go into an executive session. If we're going to begin to reach out into the candidates, the qualifications, and the whole application process that have gone on, we need to be very careful about that process. What I would reiterate to you is that this is the recommendation of the leadership team. We haven't arrived at that lightly, and I'm not. It's often challenging to stand in the face of board members, but I would say to you that in my view, to move the program forward, you need some stability in that leadership position in the near term, and that's why we've brought it back to you tonight. And I am concerned that an interim may not provide that stability. So I want to add that from the administrator's position. We still stand in support of this lady for this position.
Then I would like to call for question on the original motion and then see if people agree, I guess.
What was the original motion?
The original motion was to authorize the employment contract for the position of Director of Educational Services, Early Childhood and Family Education, and there was a second on that. Not interim, for the position.
Okay, and what you have, this is Marv Lamer. If I understand, Julie, that's what you wanted, right? So
Yes.
you can see who's speaking. Okay.
This is Elaine.
If I understand that we have a motion as described correctly by Elaine, we have an amendment to that motion that's been seconded that would have to be voted on first, which would be to make this a, President Sims, correct me, a temporary assignment. And so the amendment would have to be voted on first before the main motion.
So
And this is Bill Gibby. That'd be my understanding, that you would first have to, if you wanted to get back to the original motion, you'd have to vote down the amendment to get back to the original motion.
Okay, so is there any other comment, or shall we go ahead and, Elaine, can you call roll on the motion that's on the table right now?
Yes. All right.
This is the
Do I
amendment,
start with
correct?
myself since I'm doing it alphabetically?
And so this is the motion, the amendment that would make it only temporary.
Correct.
Yes. And I vote no on that. Lynn Davison?
I vote yes.
Angela Denning?
Yes.
Bill Gibney?
No.
Michael Gordon? Michael Gordon?
I vote yes.
Dean Howard?
I vote yes.
Sue K. Kneifel?
I vote yes.
Mark Sims?
I vote yes.
Okay, the amendment stands.
Thank you. So we can go ahead and re-advertise that position.
Wait a minute, you need to vote the motion.
Oh, the second motion. Well,
The first motion,
Okay.
as amended. You need to vote
You were voting on the amendment this
Oh.
time. Did everybody
Okay.
understand that?
Got
you
it.
were voting
I got
to
Okay, so now
amend it.
now we'll vote on the motion as it stands with the amendment.
No, we just approved the amendment, so there's no, the
That's
amendment supersedes the original motion.
That is correct.
Then I stand corrected.
Okay. So, all right, so the motion in its current form with the amendment, it passed, and we'll go ahead and have her approved on a temporary basis and re-advertise the position.
Do you want me to call the roll to vote on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Lynn Davidson?
To what?
This is actually, so we just passed the amendment. Now we're going to vote whether or not you want the motion in its current form to pass.
In the current form with the amendment.
With the amendment.
I think we're probably all a little confused. Mark, can you help us out on this? Or
Okay, so
someone?
currently what we're voting on, we just passed the amendment, and I
Correct.
believe we're voting on passing the current motion in its form, in its amended form, which is to give a temporary hire and re-advertise the position in the vernacular. Okay? Elaine, can you go ahead and call roll, please?
Yes. Lynn Davison?
Yes.
Angela Denning?
Yes.
Bill Gibney?
No.
Michael Gordon?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Michael.
Yes.
No or yes?
It was a yes.
Okay, sorry. Dean?
Dean Howard, yes.
Sue K. Kneifel?
Yes.
Mark Sims?
Yes.
And I would vote no on that. Thank you.
So the motion.
It passes.
Okay, thank you. So next we're going to go to the first read, item number 7, board policies, the first read and discussion of the item policy 3L, 4B, BBBB, BDB, BE, BEC, BEDA, BEDBA, BGD, EF, EFC, EFH, and EFI. Are there any questions or comments regarding the policy in its current form?
Mr. Chairman, can we ask Maria Murphy to come up if there are? And again, these are items that are up for first read, which means they will come back to you at the March board meeting.
Great,
Board
thank
meeting.
We can include agenda item 7.02 as well. Oh, no, we can't.
No,
That's
no,
a second
separate.
read. I'm sorry.
Separate.
Second read. Are there any
Okay.
questions? Angela, can you give us a summary of, I'm sorry, Angela. Maria, can you give us a summary of what these items and what's been done to the policy? in general terms.
Wait a minute.
Get close to the microphone.
Am I audible? Okay. Okay. Policies JL, BBB, BDB, BE, BEC, BEDA, BEDBA, BGD, EF, EFC, and EFH, and EFI are policies. Policy JL is in regards to student wellness. Yes, student wellness. All of the B policies are policies that affect board operations. And then the E policies reflect changes that are being made to some of the operations policies, specifically food services. So food services, free and reduced price food services, and the sanitation program, as well as records and reports. The majority of these policies are basically procedural changes. And when I say procedural changes, that means that they are very minor changes. They don't change the spirit of the policy at all. It's basically just to bring us into line with language maybe that ADE may be requiring, the federal government may be requiring, or in compliance with the Arizona School Board Association policy advisories. So they're minor changes.
Are there any questions for Maria? Not for Angela.
Mr. Chairman, just if I could, once they're first read, then we'll get them up on the website, which makes it available for public then to submit their comments on the changes to Maria or to get clarification, and we'll bring that back to you for the second read.
That would be great, and I assume that's going to be the ongoing process.
It will be. It will be with perhaps one modification as to that if there aren't challenges between the first and second read, the second read will come back to you in the consent agenda.
Right, correct, understood. Okay. Sounds like a very workable process. Thank you. Thank you very much. You can go ahead and stay because we're going to now move on to item 7.02, second read and possible action items, policies BGB and GBEC.
Yes. Okay, so policy BGB is policy adoption, and policy GBEC is student wellness. The student wellness policy is procedural changes, so again, very minor changes that do not change the spirit of the policy. Policy BGB, policy adoption, actually does have some substantive changes in there, so I would direct your attention to those changes at this time.
Are there any questions regarding the policies?
Mr. Chairman, Maria, this is Bill Gibney. Was this the area where Lisa had raised a question about one of those sets of policies?
I'm sorry, Mr. Gibney, could you repeat the question? I had a little difficulty hearing you.
Lisa earlier raised a question, and I think it was about 7.02. Is that right,
it was,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, it was in regards to policy GBEC, and those are procedural changes, so they are very minor changes that do not affect the spirit of the policy at all. Okay. It's essentially a change in title to...
And were you able to explain it to Lisa?
I haven't had the opportunity yet. I will after the meeting.
This is Elaine, and I thought that her concern was that she could not find it on, coming up. So when we're saying that next group that we had the first reading on will be available to look at, was this available for people to look at and just difficult to find, or was it not available for people to look at?
Policy GBEC is on the ASDB website. It is a little bit difficult to find. That's something that we are working on right now to make it a little bit more user-friendly for people to find. And after the meeting, I'd be more than happy to speak to Lisa to direct her exactly where she needs to go to find GBEC in its current iteration.
Thank you.
Board member 7.02 is an action item.
Right. So are there any other questions on this action item?
Mr. President, this is Angela Denning. Maria, the substantive changes,
Yes.
are those in red?
Is
Is that the color coding?
The substantive changes should be in red
In
with
red.
strike-throughs and underlines.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Do we have this action item on the table? Do we have any motions regarding it?
I'll move that we accept.
This is Lynn
as-
Davison. I motion to approve this action item, 7.02.
Bill, give me, and I second that.
All right, we're going to do it verbally. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay. Moving on to item number 8, discussion and possible action item, next steps from the board retreat, possible next retreat dates and topics. So a summary of the summary notes from the retreat on January 31st are in the people's information packets, the board packets. I would like just to take the opportunity to thank everybody, especially the executive team, for putting on a very nice retreat. I don't mean in terms of the food and that, I meant in terms of the substantive achievements, and the facilitator and the topics were very vibrant and very fruitful, and I think it was probably some of the most productive time spent that I've ever been involved in a retreat. And I think the topics were really lively, and there's a lot of great things that we're looking to do as an organization. So we're open to any comments from any board members regarding this item or any ideas in terms of the future or what they'd like to see.
This is Lynn Davison. I agree with Dr. Sims. It was, for having to spend a Saturday, it was a very well spent Saturday, and I felt that it was very well organized, and we got a lot of work done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
As Marv Lamer, just really what the goal here would be, with your, if you chose, would be to identify topics for the next retreat and then a date. And I'll share with you on the front end, March is an extremely difficult month to try to get people together. I know that when Mr. Kaler and I talked, he has conferences he's out of town for.
Spring breaks and stuff. Yeah.
So April would seem to be the month. It is important work to finish as we move forward with the superintendent selection process.
Agreed. I think that we need to work on coming up with our final vision statement in terms of what it is, and a general overview of where we think each particular portion of the agency is to go forward. I think that would be very helpful. I think that it would be helpful for the executive team to kind of look for a consensus date across all the board members, and as well as you, and as well as availability of a facility. My comment would be that May then gets very busy because it's the end of the school year, and there are not just the end of school functions, but recitals and plays and all of those things. So, perhaps I don't think this is something that should linger. I would target a April date, and we could perhaps go from there.
So if you move it, then what we would do is Letitia would begin to get on with the phone with you and identify a date that will work with board members, because I don't think everybody brought their calendars tonight for April.
There's also an application called, I believe, Doodle, which is a application where it queries people as to their availability on dates, and it's actually solves this problem somewhat. You have to doodle back.
Okay, we'll attempt to dabble in Doodle.
Yeah, I've gotten an email saying I didn't doodle, but you do have to doodle back. So, and we'll go ahead and. Is there any other discussion regarding the retreat, availability, topics people would like to see covered? And the same facilitator?
I think we would need a motion to have a retreat in April.
Okay.
We would need.
But is there any other discussion? Go ahead.
I just had one point. I agree with the vision, and then probably, we spent a lot of time talking about the outreach and the necessity for early intervention, that we probably need to piece that apart and put some specifics and definitions to that. So that would give us an opportunity to do that. So.
Okay.
I agree. This is Elaine.
I would like to make a motion that the board convene a retreat in April.
And the executive team coordinate that.
And the executive team coordinate that.
Yeah, Saturday could work.
This is okay. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. There was a comment.
I was going to second but I'll.
Okay. Yes, is a Saturday objectionable? I'm sorry, I know we're in the middle of approving the motion, but, okay, yep.
My comment would just be that the early part of April would already be difficult. The first 2 Saturdays would be difficult for me, and so there.
Yeah, the first Saturday, I believe, is on Easter, the weekend of Easter. Okay, so any other comments?
Yes, this is Juke. The sooner we can book a date, the better. My calendar is booking very, very quickly, including the weekend.
I think Superintendent Lemmer is already on the Doodle website as we speak.
Awesome. Then if there's further comments, I would second that motion.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do a verbal roll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. We appreciate that. That'll be great. All right, on to agenda item number 9. Call to the public for any non-agenda items. So these will be done in the order that they were received. If you submitted 2 forms, we're still going to give you 5 minutes to discuss the item. So the first item will be from Ronald Hazlitt Weeks on CPR, ADA, and first aid, college credits, and nurse assistant. Is Ronald here? Yeah, if you have other items, we're going to...
I thought it was 3 minutes. Is it 3 minutes?
No, go ahead. We'll give you 5. We're moving along.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you. President, Vice President, members of the board, Chairman of the board, and audience members. Excuse me while I get my glasses. My name is Ronald Hazlitt Weeks. I'm an alumnus, and I'm an assistant instructional aide or sub here. Since November of 2013, I've really enjoyed working with the staff and students on campus as a sub. I've worked in 17 different classes, from preschool all the way through 12th grade. I have noticed as of late that my hours have dwindled. I'm waiting to hear about a need that my services might be able to help with. First aid and CPR was something that I was supposed to be given, but I waited for a year and it was never offered to me, so I went ahead myself and completed the certification on my own. I also posted that information through...
Oh, hold it.
Oh, wait, we can't see him.
But then you have to interpret.
Well, I'd rather face the board because that's who I'm addressing.
Well, kind of just at an angle so everyone can see you. No, we have a deaf interpreter here. That's going to mirror him, so he'll be fine.
And Ronald thanked Delynn for her
We
help.
were doing so well.
Okay. So I received my certification for CPR and first aid and posted it on Arizona State Jobs profile. I would encourage ASDB when they hire new employees to send them directly to these trainings and not wait for a period of a year, which is what happened to me. Instructional aides are required to have 60 credit hours, college credit hours, that's posted on AZ government jobs. I have thrice the amount of credit hours that are required. So I would recommend that staff members take continuing education and earn college credits. And here's my reasoning. If they were to take courses like psychology courses, I believe it's very important for them in working with students. And I think that if someone has college experience and credits in that type of field, they would better serve the students. We also need a nursing assistant in the same building where the students are located or housed. Because if a child doesn't feel well, they're having to leave to go to another building to get examined by a nurse. And if it's something severe, maybe then the nurse can come visit them in the dorm and we can take them to student health if necessary. We would like to have a nursing assistant who is more knowledgeable in different health issues so that they can better serve the students. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is David Bailey regarding the board retreat.
Hi, I'm David Bailey. I'm Lisa Furr, and David Bailey is the president of the parent-student organization at PDSD. He asked me to speak in his stead, if that is okay and acceptable by the board. Thank you. Please be patient with me. I'm trying to read his notes. I want to make sure that I'm expressing what he's seen and what he noticed at the recent board retreat. David's main concern was of the representation on the panel, which was divergent from the initial agenda. With Zimmerman, his presentation about the program at Desert Voices, it didn't have anything related to the ASDB agency as a whole. And the board chose guest speakers who did not specialize in deaf education. The board did invite Mike Peters to present on American Sign Language and deaf culture with only a very limited 15-minute time period. I mean, it's a good start, but I would like to see more time and more effort put into those types of presentations for the board. A speech-language pathologist was invited to present to the board from Desert Voices, where Mr. Sims and Mr. Howard spent time speaking against American Sign Language. At ASDB, speech is limited to students who have that requested on their IEP, which means that speech services are not provided in the classrooms, but they're assigned outside of the classroom for one period once or twice a week. All through the retreat, the board showed an unawareness or lack of knowledge on the pressing issues that ASDB is currently facing. There needs to be more focus on what we are facing, and we would like the board to be more familiar with that. We have many new board members who are new to the agency, and they need to know what has happened in the past and what we're currently facing. The board needs to have an orientation on deaf education and about what ASDB is. The retreat was not effective in that regard. We need to contact individuals for impartial information and guest speakers who can do that rather than through collegial connections or faculty connections or friendships. So it's important that we bring experts in to balance the information, to provide a fairness in the presentation information. More experts and more research for your future retreat and for regular meetings to make sure that we can focus on language acquisition and benchmark research and findings in regard to benchmarks for bilingual education. There are a lot of resources out there, and we can bring those resources to you and share the materials. The Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing is a resource. We, the Arizona Association of the Deaf, or our parent organization, the National Association of the Deaf, can bring in professional people to give presentations to the board in the future and specifically at the retreat. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lisa Fair on the board retreat.
Let me introduce myself again for Angela. I don't know if you heard me introduce myself in the past because I know you were on the phone. I don't know if you heard my introduction. Okay, great. I am Lisa Furr. I'm with the Arizona Association for the Deaf, or ASDB. Some of our board members went to the retreat to share notes with the board as to what's been happening. And we were looking for the minutes to be posted at the ASDB website. We found that those minutes only equaled a page for a 6-hour retreat. The details weren't covered extensively in the notes, and I'm wondering where the transparency is. A lot of the content was missing and not visible in the minutes that were posted. There was very little information. We were very disappointed. We wanted to be able to read for the general public who couldn't attend the retreat so that they could read and know what you did and discuss who the presenters were, what type of information you shared, and what discussions you had. I strongly suggest that you redo the minutes and make sure to share the content of that meeting. I would also like to talk about the agenda items. One of the agendas said deaf oral and hard of hearing presentation. And Carla Zimmerman is a speech language pathologist at Desert Voices and owns a private business. That to me seemed off the mark agenda-wise. She does not internalize the concept of deaf oralism. She is not a hard of hearing person. So in looking to community resources instead of people who don't have a true experience or say, when you're thinking about presentations, for example, would you have a Caucasian person give you a presentation on Black history? You would not, no way. Any minority group, you would have the person there to express their experience and to talk about what they've gone through, and you work with that group. You haven't walked a mile in their shoes. You don't know what their experience is. So it was disappointing and upsetting to have somebody who did not have a personal investment or experience in the community giving a presentation on the needs of the people. Focusing on culture is a very good start, but I think a huge part that was missing was the language acquisition piece and education. Children are here to learn language and to be educated, not to try to fix who they are. Mr. Sims mentioned that he wanted to encourage the medical community to be involved in the IEP meetings. I don't see that as appropriate. That is for his benefit. We need to look at the parents and the students and the work that we're doing here at ASDB. The ability to hear and the ability to speak has nothing to do with the medical community. We need to keep that away from what we're doing here and the goals of our school and focus on the needs of the students at ASDB. I would like to emphasize that you please use the resources in the community. We are happy to share any information that we can, and make sure that when you're inviting people to come give a presentation, that those people have an idea of what they're speaking on. I hope that you will have passion for the deaf and hard of hearing and blind children here and their future education and success. We don't want to fail them. We want to empower them and make sure that they're successful by learning about the different resources that are available and the research that's available on what's effective for those groups. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a moment. Are we back up live streaming, guys? Okay. Just want to make sure we had everybody back in their right places. Thank you.
Our next one is Mary Rimron on the Tucson campus.
Good evening, Board and ASDB executives. My name is Mary Rimron, and I've worked at the School for the Deaf and Blind since 1981 in different capacities. I've been a teaching parent in the School for the Blind, a teaching parent in the School for the Deaf. I've taught in the co-op. I've taught on the main campus. I was a dean of students in the School for the Blind, and currently I work as a freelance interpreter. I come to you tonight because I'm concerned with the Tucson campus, and what I see makes me sad, and I just wanted to come and share with you some of my observations. I think that the leadership here is needing to improve its ability to recognize the knowledge and experience of the employees that work here. I feel that the support for the opinions of some of the employees is lacking, and without support of your opinions, you don't feel respected. I believe that this campus, the Tucson campus, needs innovative leaders, people that can think out of the box, someone that can network within the deaf community. And when I say deaf community, I guess I'm also talking about the School for the Blind also. I don't want to just narrow this to the School for the Deaf, but for the School for the Blind also. People that can network and bring this school back to what it once was. Right now, it's just a shadow of itself. The issues in deaf education are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And like Lisa said, language acquisition is at the root of it. Bringing tools like beyond textbooks to this school is just that. It's a tool, but along with that tool, you need curriculum guidance, you need direction, and you need philosophy to support it. Without all that, the teachers are just on an island, and they can't be effective. I think that the agency still needs to work on trust and transparency on this campus. Decision-making needs to include people who have experience in deaf education. There's a lot of resources on this campus, a lot of years of experience. Use those people. That will help build trust, and it will create more transparency. I believe that there's still a divide between the administration and the classroom. And with trust, that divide could come together. I think that the marketing of the Tucson campus is lacking. The things that set this school and this campus apart from any other school or program for deaf, hard of hearing, blind children have kind of fallen by the wayside. The close-up program, the outdoor education program, the summer literacy camp, all these special things that this campus used to do that no other school in the state would do for deaf or blind children are not a part of the curriculum, or even not a summer program. They've kind of fallen away, and that therefore doesn't allow ASDB to distinguish itself and separate itself and say, hey, we can provide this to deaf, blind, hard of hearing children, and whereas a public school couldn't provide it. I think that, what, let me go on this. ASDB's had a strong history of developing the whole child, making happy, well-adjusted community members in the state of Arizona. I know that AIMS scores are important, but AIMS scores are not the sole predictor of an individual's success in life.
Okay, that is your time.
That's
Thank
my
you
time?
very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, I'll point out, though, the rest of your... The rest of the items, if you want to submit those to me, we'll get them to the board. So if you write them up, then we'll get them out to all the board members. I will if I can read it.
The next is a call for agenda items for the next meeting. Is there anybody, we can go down the roll call and see if anybody, is there any topics that we'd like addressed at the board meeting, in the next board meeting? Elaine, can you go through the roll and we'll ask each person?
Sure.
Thank you.
Lynn Davison?
No.
It's okay, you're allowed to not.
Can I say no?
Her answer was no. She doesn't have anything at this time.
Angela Denning?
I'm wondering if we could have some information about the early childhood outreach as it is right now, currently.
Okay. Bill Gibney?
Well, I guess this will already be on the agenda, for the committee to report on their findings regarding a search committee or a facilitator for the new director, new superintendent.
Yes, that will be on the agenda already. Thank you, Bill.
Mike Gordon?
I'm not sure if this would be an agenda item that we'd want to put on for the meeting, but it certainly would be for the retreat, and it's really to reinforce some of the things that I've heard here from the public is really the opportunity for exposure and understanding of the various cultures that are here at ASDB. The blind culture, which is so misunderstood, and obviously some of the board members also not understanding deaf culture, because that's really that understanding of adjustment is the beginning to really understanding this field. And if we're going to have an orientation to be able to kind of get to foundational work, that's where we're going to have to be. So I don't know if that would be an agenda item as far as how we want to work that from the retreat, or something we could actually to bring up at the next meeting.
I'd sure like to know more about it, but it seems to me it'd be more appropriate at the retreat.
Well, yeah, I think it would too, but I think it's something that we could actually maybe discuss as to how we want to go about that. Or
I might make the comment that actually a board meeting might be better, because our time on the weekends is short. And it's not that we're not willing to, but I'm sure that the public at the board meeting would want to hear what people are saying and having that opportunity of what's being presented to the board. It's not a dismissive of it integrating with the retreat, but perhaps it would be better in the board agenda, so then it's at these meetings so people can see what is being said to the board in terms of this information.
We'll craft a way to get that into the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Dean Howard?
Mr. President, I would also like to see a discussion at a board meeting regarding early childhood programs that are currently being done at the school.
Okay, thank you.
Sue K. Kneifel?
I'm not sure whether this would be a board meeting agenda item, but we have representation from PDSD that participates with other collaborative agencies on a national grant program through PEPNet 2 for transition age students. And I think that the administration of ASDB as a whole should be aware of that project. So I don't know if that would Angela is also part of that project, and I think it would be something that should be brought to the attention so that both campuses can eventually participate. And then an idea for a possible topic for presentation at the retreat, just for us to sort of do some self-insight, maybe looking at some disconscious ableism and where our own personal biases are with the different groups that we are here to serve.
Thank you. Mark Sims?
No, I have no additional items. I think fellow board members have done a great job of suggesting items that need to be covered.
And again, I would just reiterate the early childhood emphasis in retreat and in a board meeting. Thank you.
Superintendent Lamer, did you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Marv Lamer, just would like to remind the board that the March board meeting is the meeting in which we bring contracts forward.
Okay.
And it also will have an executive session for the purpose of the board reviewing the interim superintendent's performance.
So we'll look at the agenda to see how full it is. Some of this might get covered on that board meeting. Some of it might flow down to the following board meeting. But the public should be rest assured that these are topics that the board is very interested in and does want to learn more about, and it will happen. So if it doesn't happen, it's due to the length of, our attention wanes at some point. So we've done many a 10 and 11 o'clock board meeting, and we're going to try to avoid them going in the future. But we will get to these topics in the next probably 2 meetings. So, any other? I'm sorry?
This is Bill Givney. I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Bill.
I don't know if this is appropriate, so act accordingly. But the comments from the public, a lot of them were very germane and really raised my interest. I would ask if they could capsulize them and get copies, rather than a dissertation. Get some so actual things that we can then format for either a board meeting or at the retreat.
I don't disagree with you. There's no restriction on any member of the public sending a letter or any sort of inquiry to the board. Whether or not we act on it is another story, but they are more than welcome to send their comments to the board. We're all open to those comments, and I think that's a great idea.
Well, I just encourage them then to not give a dissertation, but tell us maybe 5 bullet points that they would like for us to consider, and then we could take it under advisement.
I don't see him listed. No, as I said, people submitted forms, and just because you submit 2 forms doesn't mean that you get 2 periods, because otherwise the public comment would go on. So we give every person 5 minutes of time to discuss it. So 2 forms doesn't translate into 2 periods of time to discuss those topics. The non-agendized items are for people to discuss whatever they wish during that time. I actually did speak to that. I said that if you submit multiple forms, that doesn't get you multiple periods of time. And that's been the working policy of the board as long as I've been on the board. And again, if there are comments that somebody feels that they wish for us to have, we're more than entertain written comments. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to wrap up from the last meeting, it was nice segue that you point this out. We had two folks who did not get an opportunity last board meeting to complete their comments in the 5 minutes. They've submitted those items.
Correct.
They're there for information for you as board members. You received those. We'll do the same thing with what Lisa didn't get to complete. If we get it to Letitia, we will get it out to the board members so that that complete thought process can get it to every board member.
Okay. All right. Next agenda item is adjournment. Do we have any motions regarding adjournment?
Mr. President?
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you for your time, everybody. We appreciate your help with this agency. Thank you.
Mark, thank you for your time.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Bye, Lane.
One thing I don't know.